Tudor heart, romance or propaganda? Welcome to Mark and Pete. Today we're firmly in Tudor territory, where everyone is either getting divorced or executed and pretending it's all for the good of the nation. Yes, it's Mark and Pete, two blokes with half an opinion. Now, here's our first thought.
The King and Queen of Hearts. Oh, to the beat of a Tudor heart, a symbol of love's token, until the chain then tears apart and eternally lies broken. Yes, extraordinary. Now, the British Museum has successfully raised £3.5 million to keep a pendant, which is made of gold, which is associated with King Henry VIII's marriage to his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. Now, this is an incredible finding, an extremely important artifact. Not only does it reflect the romance of King Henry VIII, but also there is an underlying trend here. There's something that we need to explore a little bit more. Love is on one side, propaganda the other. Mr. Pete, this particular pendant is of historical value, but it isn't just about a pendant of love, is it?
Well, no, not if by this we mean romantic love, like is sometimes expressed on Valentine's Day. Not necessarily that sort of love, because of the political connections that were forged because of the marriage. So Catherine was
Exactly.
Spanish royalty, and also Roman Catholic. Now that's important because you then got a joining together with the continental church, and it's a way of embedding Britain into good relationship with Spain and therefore with other countries in Europe, and having good trade, protection against invasion, all that sort of thing. So it would seem then that it's cynical, except for yeah, you could say slightly cynical in that, well, maybe the people who saw this thought, it's because of love between Henry and Catherine. Well, Catherine, though, was always certainly all for it. She was a political operator herself. We
Yes.
mustn't assume that she didn't know what was going on. She's known to be well respected in political circles. She was first married, of course, to Prince Arthur, but he had died by this point. So, it was. Had he died by this point?
Yes.
My
Well,
history. He's got.
yeah.
Yes, I think he had. Yeah, and here's the issue. Yes, I think that it is more propaganda than romance, but it's two-sided. It's an agreement. It's not Henry taking advantage of Catherine. It's two people coming together for political reasons, which can develop into love, or could have developed into love, depending on your view of what happened next.
Well, indeed. Now, a metal detectorist found this particular pendant in a Warwickshire field way back in 2019. A remarkable find. The actual pendant itself is in the shape of a heart, but what it does have embedded in it are old French words, which simply says toujours, which it means always. Now,
Mhm.
it's true. It's an exquisitely crafted piece of jewellery made of gold, encrusted with other jewels. And I will say that just purely from the point of view of the artistry, it's a magnificent piece. But to your point, what does it really sort of reflect? Yes, it's the betrothal of Henry to Catherine, but really, as we all know, as history has highlighted, that really didn't last very long because, as we know, what was very important at that time is that Henry wanted a son. What he had was his daughter, Princess Mary. And whilst obviously that was fine for the firstborn, he still needed a son and an heir at the time. And so I think that Mr. Pete, when we look at the religious side of this and what this heart actually really symbolizes is also the political shenanigans that were going on, of course, in the Catholic Church at the time and the allegiance between
Yes.
England and, of course, Rome.
Yes. Now, this is an important point that's often lost here. Yeah, it wasn't that there was this big church, the Catholic Church, and then Britain was part of it and left. In fact, I misspoke earlier, and saying Britain again then is slightly incorrect. I was just thinking, as I said it, I regret it. It's not Britain; it's England we're talking about. Um, I mean, Scotland was a separate kingdom at the time, with a different king, different and different relationships with countries in Europe. So, with the but coming back to the point at hand, yes, England had the English Church, with its own archbishop, which had a relationship with the bishop in Rome, known these days strongly as the Pope. That was one of the names that he was called. But there wasn't sort of this idea that you had the Catholic Church. It was actually the Roman Church. All the church around was Catholic. There was the English Catholic Church, which had a relationship with Rome. It wasn't as simple as that. But the Roman Catholic Church was very powerful, and it had not only power in its own right and its own military, it had influence over the military militaries of other countries around. So therefore, it was very, very useful for for Spain and England to be aligned, and having a Roman Catholic marrying Henry was brilliant. And in fact, Henry wrote, or possibly people say had someone write for him, a treatise which defended the Roman Catholic faith, Roman Catholic view of theology, which is rather ironic, isn't it, considering what happened later with England leaving the Roman Catholic Church? But the this gave him the title Defender of the Faith. That's where that term comes from for the English king. So this
Yes.
was very much not only a political but a religious marriage, bringing the two sides together. And as I say, it was both sides working together. I mean, even when they were married. I think there was love there. There's also respect because I think I'm right in saying there was a war with Scotland in 1513, and 1513. Yep, I just see a note here that was 1513. In 1513, there was a battle against the Scots where Henry went and commanded the military. So therefore, leaving Catherine basically in charge of the country at the time. So obviously,
Yes.
there was some trust there as well. So it gives this pendant, the Tudor heart, more of a meaning, and it makes it more poignant that just simply because Mary wasn't a boy, and in those days you weren't allowed to just choose your gender. So uh, Mary not being a boy made everything different and changed history.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because at that very point is, I think, the core to this. Because, as you say, that particular pendant was a symbol of affection. But what would have happened, of course, if Mary had turned out to be a boy? We
Yes.
probably would have been looking at the entire world's history in a different light. And I think that that really would have changed the meaning of the pendant itself, because
Yeah.
now it sort of looks like, the sort of broken parts of history and relationships. But had Mary been a boy, maybe we'd be sort of talking about society in a different way.
Yes, it's interesting. I think my view is from a Protestant point of view, the religious changes that happened later under Henry were a good thing, even though, or rather possibly because it caused so much turmoil, changes in religious thought that opened up uh, the Bible, Christian and spiritual experience to all the people rather than being so controlled by the Roman Church. Um, I think that the Roman Church and its and similar churches, such as the English Church, but that it's impossible to say whether that wouldn't have happened, perhaps in a more um, peaceful manner, had we not had this issue
Yes.
of Henry being without male issue, and so
Well,
he couldn't have his line perpetuated. So yeah, it really is. Then it's one of those poignant, sad reminders of how political allegiances can just result in sadness and disaster. Not, of course, there are absolutely no uh, ramifications or reflections on what's happening today.
Well, it's interesting that Henry VIII was known as a tyrant. We know exactly what his motivations were. The pendant was, of course, a symbol of love. But at the end of the day, when it came to the bottom line, he chewed a heart and spat it out.